because we might never find out their names. They might be dead. They might be killed because nobody are out to call for their release, and their names can never be revealed in public eyes. And this makes me so sad. And that's what kept me going until today. For those whose names could be buried in a concentration camp forever.
Hello, starseeds, and welcome to episode 12 of Musings from the Rainbow Sparkle Palace. This is Rainbow coming to you from the library on Berea College's campus. We are recording live today because attempts at recording previously have not worked, so you're just gonna bear with me and enjoy the live feel of this. So today's episode, we are so honored. I am so honored to bring you an interview with Jewher Ilham. She is the daughter of Uyghur scholar Ilham Tohti, who has been imprisoned in China. He's a moderate voice who was dedicated to bridging the gap between the Uyghur people and the Han Chinese. So in China, this is kind of similar to perhaps in the Civil War, for example, trying to unite whites and blacks. And he was imprisoned in 2014 for his activism, even though he was considered quite a moderate voice at that time. So Jewher just recently graduated from Indiana University. She's currently in DC, and she just graduated with a degree in political science, Arabic, and Central Eurasian studies. Yes, and right now she's working with two award-winning documentary filmmakers on a film about Uyghurs and the concentration camps that are currently by the hundreds in China, where 1 to 3+ million Uyghur people. These are a peaceful Muslim people who live in East Turkestan, the Uyghur region, currently known as Xinjiang, China, for thousands of years has been occupied by China, and China has been, in recent years, increasingly pushing them out with increasing violence and increasing extremity. And I first heard about this, I think in passing online a year ago, and I don't think it really registered for me. I reshared a video of a Muslim woman talking about what was happening in China, but it didn't really register to me. It wasn't really made real until very recently. I actually spent a Sunday after writing a song about it and releasing it for all benefits to go to this documentary that Jewher is working on. The documentary is called Static and Noise. It should be out this year. And so I spent a Sunday just searching on YouTube, Uyghur, that's Uyghur, and what's happening in Xinjiang, that's Xinjiang, China, and it's hella depressing, y'all. It's beyond any kind of evil that I'd say it's about on par with the most severe evils that I've ever imagined, that I've ever had in my worst nightmares. And what makes it even worse is China's access to increasing levels of complex technology. So what we have happening right now is that the Chinese Communist Party has checkpoints set up every, several, 100 meters or so in Xinjiang, and along with, every 20 meters or so in a public space, you'll have cameras which are scanning constantly, have advanced facial recognition technology that they use to track every person's movements. But all of this technology is greatly amplified in Xinjiang, where they're treating the Uyghurs like terrorists, simply because of one incident years ago when the Uyghurs had an uprising against the Chinese Communist Party and their invasion. It's akin to what China did in Tibet. And you'll see there are two clips that you'll see over and over and over that the Chinese Communist Party is using, where you see a bus being shaken and the windshield falling out, and they're using that public protest to justify their systematic coming in and kidnapping in the middle of the night of these people and placing them in concentration camps, as well as stopping people at checkpoints on the streets. They will check your cell phone. If you have any religious material on your phone that make it look like you're a Muslim, they will call you a terrorist. They put you in these concentration camps, which they call re-education camps, in which they are brainwashing people to submit to ideas of the Chinese Communist Party. There's a documentary, it's super creepy, where they make these people line up in military lines. I've never seen such robotic precision in the human body as that of the Chinese military. And they make them repeat, I am Chinese, and long live Xi Jinping, and they have to sing Chinese songs before they're allowed to eat, and if they don't, they will be beaten or electrocuted, and they're given 2 minutes in the restroom. If they take longer, they will be electrocuted. As soon as they are admitted into these centers, there's a great amount of technology that's being used that is extra scary. If you're a sensitive listener, you're probably going to want to check out for this episode, just FYI. Just do that for yourself, because this stuff's about to get pretty heavy. So when these people are admitted into these concentration camps, they will do a facial scan. They'll do a voice scan. I'm not sure why they do that part. And they will also take a DNA sample. And if your blood matches that of someone who is currently requesting an organ donor in China, they will kill you and use your organs. They call it organ harvesting, which I think is the most grotesque phrase I may have ever heard. And because of this, China has reduced the wait list for organ donors from a couple years down to a few weeks, which in any other circumstance might sound like a good thing, but it's absolutely mortifying, just so just grotesque and disgusting. And the women are given injections every day. I know this because of a documentary where they spoke with a woman who was released. Eventually, some of the people are released. She said that they give you injections like every week, and they would have to stick their hand through the bars of their cell, and they would receive a shot. And the women realized that the shots made them no longer have their periods. It also made them not care about anything. And I've wondered in retrospect if those weren't birth control shots. I don't know. Because I do know that if you're pregnant, they'll test you if you're a woman when you're admitted. If you're pregnant, they will immediately give you an abortion, and a forced abortion, of course, because they don't want any more Uyghur people. They're trying to wipe them out. It's genocide. And the way that the Chinese Communist Party has tried to cover this up and paint it as their form of combating terrorism is so gaslighting, so manipulative, so fucked up, and so transparent. Anyone with two little bits of logic to rub together can see through it. There's a really disturbing documentary, you can find it on YouTube, where one of these concentration camps allotted, I believe it was an American or perhaps a British entity, journalist company, to come and tour the facility and interview people for a day. And it was very apparent when they arrived that the prisoners had been prepared and had been trained and had been threatened to behave in a certain way and perform and pretend like it was just a school, and they were learning Chinese and learning Chinese cultural dances, and they were very happy, and they were repenting of their sinners' ways of being a terrorist and being Muslim, and now they're going to be atheists, just like China wants. I don't think there's anything wrong with atheism, but there's definitely something wrong with pushing it on people. It's just as sick as evangelicals. That stuff burns me up. It's some kind of evil. It's some other kind of evil. And anyhow, so Jewher is brilliant, and she's a speaker, and she actually released a book in 2015, and the University of New Orleans Press released it. It's called Jewher Ilham, an Uyghur's Fight to Free Her Father. And last year she spoke at the Ministerial to Advance Religious Studies, which was hosted by Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. She's been invited to the White House to speak. She's spoken in front of Congress, and this is all, she's about 21, 22 years old at this point. And all of these, no, how old is she now? She's 24. Sorry, Jewher. And she says, when she was 18 and saw her father taken from her at the airport in Beijing, she was not the strong woman she is today. I mean, in their culture at that time, she was still considered a child. And she's really been forced to grow up, and she's become such a strong force for activism. I mean, I cannot imagine at the age of 24 and even earlier, speaking in front of Congress and going to the White House and dealing with, it's amazing. I'm so grateful that she has the power and influence that she does, and what a beautiful thing, and to be birthed out of such a tragedy. She says the last that she was able to hear from her father was over 2 years ago. Anyone in her family has been banned from hearing from him since then, and may we take a moment and feel compassion, because these are our brothers and sisters. I don't care what ideas you have about Muslims. I don't care what ideas you have about foreigners. These are our brothers and sisters. And what happens to them is also happening to us. That, to me, is an irrefutable philosophy. We are all connected, and their suffering is our suffering, and their liberation is our liberation. So it is with great honor that I bring you this interview today. Additionally, I really this is very important. Let's do this. So on the website today, you will see on the show notes at rainbowstarmusic.com/episode 12, you will find the show notes, which include a list, which was very hard to come by, which Jewher supplied to me, of Fortune 500 companies that have been documented to be dealing with the slave labor of the concentration camps in China. And so that is on the website, but I pulled out several of the big names that I recognized to share with you, because also the font on that is kind of small. It's kind of hard to see. So I'm just going to throw out these names, and these are people that we absolutely need to boycott if possible. Are you ready? You're probably not going to be surprised. All right, here we go. ExxonMobil, Amazon, General Motors, aka GM, Ford Motor, GE, General Electric, Boeing, for airplanes, Dow, the computer company, PepsiCo, your Pepsi drinks, Dow DuPont, the chemical company, FedEx, HP, I'm guessing that's Hewlett-Packard. I believe that's Hewlett-Packard, who actually made the laptop that I'm using today. Cisco, they are a food services company, and they have their tomato products that are created by slave labor in Xinjiang that they are purchasing. Honeywell, I believe they make appliances, large appliances. Coca-Cola, Nike, 3M, the office supplies company, Heinz Tomato, Halliburton, the gas and oil company, natural gas and oil, General Mills, specifically Haagen-Dazs, Goodyear Tire, Land O'Lakes, yep, the butter, Estee Lauder, the makeup company, Xerox, Hilton Hotels, Campbell Soup, Avon, Adidas, Esprit, Gap, H&M, IKEA, Calvin Klein, and Tommy Hilfiger. Shame on them. And so here we have a perfect example of part of the reason why a lot of people have not even heard about this. A lot of people aren't talking about it. China has a formidable stronghold on the global economy. And I just named some of the biggest damn companies on the planet. And they're sure as hell doing everything they can not to speak out about it because their profits are on the line. And, people have been lamenting the fact that Muslim countries are not speaking out about this, but they're on the line as well. I mean, if they don't have great military defense, and if they don't have great economic defense against China, if they're dependent on China in any way, they have to keep their mouths shut to survive. And so luckily there is a bill that we talk about in this interview from the U.S. that I don't know what the current state of it is. It has passed the Senate once, I believe the House as well, and I'm not sure what the recent state of it was, if it's passed the Senate yet or not, but it is for the United States to request that China close the concentration camps. And I did see on the news that Xi Jinping was condemning the U.S. for saying that we may condemn them, and saying it would be a grave mistake, and how dare we tell them how to handle their terrorist issue, whatever, China. What they're doing as well is moving great amounts of Han Chinese people into Xinjiang, the Uyghur region, just by the thousands and thousands. They're just moving them in, tearing down the traditional Uyghur houses that are just beautiful, beautiful, old buildings, and using slave labor, forcing the Uyghur people to rebuild them into these modern day complexes and turning it into this like Tokyo kind of looking, I guess it's not a proper analogy, like Beijing just looking like some kind of city and like shopping malls, and moving Han Chinese people in there and paying Han Chinese farmers to come and farm there, and trying to advertise Xinjiang as like, this is the new it place, like you better come get it while it lasts, because here's the bottom line: the Uyghur region has minerals that are rare as fuck, and just like what's happening with Greenland, there are rare minerals that are highly profitable and highly coveted, and that, if you ask me, is the entirety of the region. That's at the basis of the reason why China is doing this. It doesn't have to do with religion or anti-religion. It has to do with power and control and gaining as much financial power as possible. And so additionally, here's another thing, just trigger warning, sexual violence. So the Chinese Communist Party is replacing some of the men that they kidnap with their Han Chinese men. So these Uyghur women are being forced to live with and being raped by Han Chinese men who the Chinese Communist Party is appointing as their new husbands. Like, what a sick, twisted thing. And they're committing suicide, because what a horrific reality to live. Rather than live with these people, they're committing suicide, seeing no way out. And it's been a large percentage of the population at this point that have been kidnapped, and children as well. There's in one of the documentaries, they go by one of the Chinese Communist Party calls a kindergarten, but there are just thousands of children whose parents have been sent to the concentration camps, and the Chinese Communist Party is, quote unquote, re-educating them and basically brainwashing them. It's brainwashing and it's torture that these people are being put through, and it has to stop right now. I know for some of us in America, this kind of thing sounds far-fetched. It may sound unreal, and certainly the extremity of it and the pain of it, the extremity of how painful it is, may make it difficult to accept and to hear and or to believe or to allow into our psyche. But I'm telling you, all signs point to this is 100% happening. And we do have things that we can do to stop it. We can write to our congressmen. Just simply Google who's my congressman, who's my state representative, and it takes 2 minutes, 24/7, day or night. You can leave them a voice message and say, I want you to do everything that you can to stop China's concentration camps from continuing. It's as simple as that. You can do that right now. That's something that you can do. And also, you can donate to the documentary. There's a song that I wrote recently. It's my recent release called Not All Men. And it talks about many of the horrific things that men are doing on the planet, including China's genocide on our Uyghur brothers and sisters. And 100% of the proceeds from that track go to the documentary Static and Noise that Jewher is helping create. You can find that at rainbowstarmusic.com. No, that's not right. The best way to find it is thisisrainbowstar.bandcamp.com, or you can find me on Instagram, and it's in my profile. So Rainbow Star Music on Instagram, and just go to the link in bio if you want to support that documentary. Interestingly enough, that documentary is unfindable when you search it on Google. I do think that probably has something to do with the fact that Google, undoubtedly has their little money-grubbing fingers in China and doesn't want to stand up and speak out against this. And we also saw what happened when a manager of the NBA spoke out against this last year. And we saw what happened. The NBA was boycotted in China, but China will never actually completely get rid of the NBA because their men rely on it, and we know how China values men. There are little boys in China that are just absolutely basketball crazy, and it's like their one release from the tyranny and oppression of that just rigid, super controlled lifestyle. So with that, I think, is there anything else that I want to say to you? I just want to say again, I did share in the last episode very briefly about the talk that I saw where Dr. Reverend Bernard Lafayette, who was a colleague and dear friend of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., was speaking, and he was optimistic. And I want to tell you, I don't think I shared with you this, but he said the reason why he's optimistic is that today he looks around and he sees women stepping up, women being revered, women being honored, women being put in places of power and leadership. And that is why he has hope for the future. And Jewher just really embodies that in so many ways. What a powerful young woman in the face of such terrifying adversity, in the face of opposition from one of, and arguably the most powerful entities on our planet, is speaking up and speaking out and using her voice and every ounce of fight in her to see that these injustices be stopped and see these wrongs be righted. I mean, mic drop. So, without further ado, it is my great honor to bring to you my interview with Jewher Ilham, activist, author, and daughter of imprisoned Uyghur scholar Ilham Tohti.
So thank you so much for meeting me today, and the introduction that I have given people. So sorry about you is that you're an Uyghur woman and a student currently in Washington, D.C. How cool. And that your father, unfortunately, has been imprisoned, in my understanding, for 5 years or more in China for his activism, and at the beginning of this year was nominated for a Nobel Peace Prize for that same activism that China so hates.
To be more accurate, after a month and a half, it will be the 6th year of my father being put in a prison in China. He was charged for being a separatist and someone who advocates for violence and for being a terrorist, which none of those statements are true about my father. Actually, my father was very well known, or still well known, because of his moderate voice and because of his peaceful suggestions towards the Chinese government in order to help fostering dialogue between the Han Chinese and Uyghurs and other ethnic minority groups, actually. But instead of cooperating with someone like my dad, the Chinese government chose to put my father into a prison and sentenced him to life. And the last time I saw my father in person was 2013, February 2nd, at the Beijing International Airport. And the last time I talked to him was 2014, January 14th, the day before he was arrested. And the last time I heard about him was 2017, around this time, around winter time. 2017, January, around January. That was the last time I heard about my father, because that was the period when when the Chinese government stopped allowing family visits to my father, for my father. So none of my family members were allowed to visit him since 2017. And we don't know how he is doing. We don't know if he's locked up in the same prison room. We don't know if he's been treated well, and we don't even know if he's even alive, since the Chinese government denying or rejecting us to visit, to any of our family members to visit him. And family law, also the lawyers, the lawyers are not allowed to visit him either. That was way before 2017. Since the 2015, I would say, after the first appeal, after the rejection of the first appeal, the prison, the cell, the people there don't allow my father's lawyer to visit him anymore.
It's so terrifying. I want to say thank you so much for sharing your story and for speaking out. And I know for a lot of people it's absolutely terrifying to do so, because the Chinese Communist Party seems so far-reaching, and like digitally they have a lot of weapons at their disposal. But I think it's absolutely important. The only way to stop it is for people to speak out. So
yes.
I'm really glad that you're doing that, and I feel honored that you are taking the time with us here. I wondered if you could share some of how, and I don't think we said your father's name, but Ilham Tohti, am I pronouncing that correctly?
Yes, perfect.
Yeah.
Ilham Tohti, yes.
Say his name. So I wonder, could you share how this has affected you and your family? Like,
Sure, definitely. So 2013, as I mentioned, February 2nd was the last time I saw my father at the Beijing International Airport. I was 18 years old. 18, this age is a very tricky age. In U.S., people kind of consider you as an adult, but in China, you're still considered as a kid. It's a cultural thing. I was just a teenager, and then I didn't speak any English. I didn't know anybody. I was a freshman student in college. I just finished high school. My father was invited as a visiting scholar by Indiana University, and he asked me, it's your winter break. Do you want to come to the United States with me just for 3 weeks or 4 weeks so you can see how America is like, and then go back to your school? in the beginning, I didn't want to go because I wanted to go to this prom thing with my friends, and I rejected. But my father said, I think you should go. You should open your eyes and see the world. And he insisted, so I said, okay. But at the airport, he was arrested. And because of my young age and because of me not knowing English, not knowing anybody at that time, the security at the airport, the police, they thought I could cause no harm. They kind of ignored me and let me leave. So I managed to escape out of the country by myself while my father was kept there. I was locked up in Chicago one more time because my visa status requires me to enter the country with my father, because my visa status was J2, family member of J1, the visiting scholar, and I only am considered legal with my father's presence. I almost got denied for entering the country until I found a name card in my pocket. I didn't know what people were saying to me because I had no English, but I did see their signs of calling. So I assumed they were asking me if I have anyone to call, but I just had that one perfect name card in my pocket, which was the person who actually invited my father to Indiana University. And he happened to have worked in the government before, so he pulled some strings and called some people, and I got into the country. And that's how I made it here. That was the last time I saw my father. After 3 days, the Chinese government officials released my father after 3 days. During that 3 days, they questioned him and beaten him, but he was set free. Not free completely, but he was put under house arrest for 11 months until 2014, January 15th. During that 11 months, me and my father, we Skyped every single day, almost 3 times a day, sometimes up to 5 times a day, just to make sure each other are safe. We don't know if the next minute one of us will be suddenly disappear or be taken to somewhere. So we always called each other. We even make sure what we eat that day, what we ate that day, what we're wearing that day, who we met, and what kind of homework I did and what I learned. We just try to keep each other like we're just trying to feel like we're not apart. Before coming to the U.S., I've never been that far away from my family. My kindergarten, my elementary school, my middle school, my high school, they were all 5 to 15 minutes walking distance from my home. I did travel to Korea or the United States once when I was little, but it was with my family members, with my school. I've never been out somewhere this far on the other side of the world by myself. I just felt very strange, and with my personality at that time, I have to be honest, it's kind of shameful, but I was not a strong girl. I was not. I cried all the time. I had homesick. I missed school. I fought with my father. So why did you make me come to the United States? He was the one who forced me to come to the U.S. at the airport. He said, you should go. This country treats you like this. Do you still want to stay here? I'd rather you sweep the street in the U.S. than you staying here. And he pushed me away. And I was blaming my father for 11 months until he was arrested. But now, when I think back, think what happened in the past, I think that was probably the best decision he had ever made for me. And now, sadly, I'm the only person who is kind of considered as safe in my family, because except me, every single member of my family, they're living in China now, and some of them have already been charged, been put in prison. My cousin has been charged sentenced for 10 years for having my father's photo and his article in her phone. She was on her way to shop, and when she passed one of the checkpoints, which is a very normal thing back in Uyghur region, they they ask you to deposit your phone. They upload and download data from your phone. And that's when they found out my father's photo and his article in her phone. And the police asked her, why do you have this terrorist information? She said, he's my uncle. And she was sentenced to 10 years. And I have other families who have been friends, family, neighbors who have been sent to camps. And those people, I don't even know where they are, how they're doing, or if they're even alive. Just like I don't know if my father is alive. Yes, 2014, January 15th, when the Chinese government the Chinese government officials, policemen, I don't know who exactly they are, but they broke into my apartment in Beijing, over 20 people. Only my father and my two younger brothers were at home. One was at age of 4, another one was at age of 7. Very young, very little. They broke in front of them and took my father away in front of their eyes and left them home alone. My stepmother was at work. She received a phone call from the neighbors because neighbors saw so many people and they got scared and called my mom. I called my stepmom and asked what happened, and she immediately came home and found my two brothers were home alone. And January 2014, I did not decide to speak up because I assumed this could be like any other time, like what happened in the past. In the past, there's so many times policemen came and took my father away for house arrest in a suburb of somewhere or another city. So many times. Sometimes even including me and my two little brothers, we were taken away to suburbs to lock up as house arrest for over a month. So I hoped that this was just like that. I hoped, and I waited and I waited and I waited until April. I couldn't just sit there and wait because there was no news, no search warrant, nothing, and no reason was given. All kinds of questions came to my mind. I don't know who to ask. I don't know how to ask. And I just know I could not just sit there and wait anymore because according to the international law or even Chinese law, you cannot lock up any person for more than 3 months without any reason. And it was more than 3 months. In April, I finally decided to do something. And that was when I decided to testify in front of Congress, end of April. And that's my start, and that was how I started the advocacy work. I still don't like politics. I hate politics so much deep in my bones. But I have to now be so involved with it just to save my family. If I have any chance, I would stay so away from it. If I can have a chance, I would not come close to politics of this dirty mud for even 1 minute. But now I have to do it for my family. And I wish one day I don't have to do it again. I don't have to do it anymore. I really wish so.
I wish that for you too.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I really hope so.
So, in recent episodes, I shared with my followers about what's happening in Xinjiang, and I wonder if you equate these two things, like what's happening in Xinjiang with the concentration camps and our Uyghur brothers and sisters. Do you think these two things how do you relate the two, I guess is the question.
Sorry, could you repeat your question again?
Do you relate what's happening with your father with what the Chinese Communist Party is doing in Xinjiang with the Uyghurs?
Yes. I think everything, every issue, every incident, every arrest, it's linked to each other back in Uyghur region. My father was one of the very first people who got arrested, and then he was like one of the key start. After when I remember someone was telling me he managed to to the U.S. after my father's arrest. When he saw my father was arrested, he said, "This is a start, and we cannot stay here anymore." Because if my father is such a moderate voice, like my father, got arrested, then other people are not safe anymore. So he managed to skip out of the country with his entire family. He sold the house. He made the smart move, but so many other people did not realize it, and they got locked up in camps or put in prison. There's so many other scholars, intellectuals, just like my father. Some of them did not even ever mention anything about the situation back in Xinjiang or back in Uyghur region. No, they just simply maybe promoting the Uyghur language or Uyghur culture. All of these people, they're locked up just for simply being who they are. And their job might be translating, or their jobs might be some like calligraphy or singing, and what they did is just to sing in their language, write in their language, and could be their crime to end up in a camp or a prison room. Just like my father, the only crime he ever did was to peacefully speak up of what was happening in Uyghur region and how those things could be helped, could be improved. This is all he did. And so many people, just like my father, are locked up. There's the president of Xinjiang University, Tashpolat Tayyip, and there's the famous scholar Raila Dawood. There's so many others. And so many others we don't even know. They might not be well known like those people I just mentioned. They might not have family members in the overseas who can call out for their release. And those people who we do not know their names, they're locked up as well. And this makes me so sad because we might never find out their names. They might be dead. They might be killed because nobody are out to call for their release. And their names could never be revealed in public eyes. And this makes me so sad. And that's what kept me going until today. For those whose name could be buried in a concentration camp forever.
Absolutely. I can relate to that feeling also. So let's talk a bit about what can be done. I know that there's a bill that has recently passed the Senate, yay, that is on its way to the House for the United States to basically ask China to close the concentration camps in Xinjiang. Yes. So that's huge. And so could you talk a little bit about that? And then we'll also talk about the documentary that you're working to create. And I've told my followers a little bit about that, but we can go into more detail.
Sure. So about the bill, it did pass the Senate in the beginning, but then the one they passed the House it's the edited version of the one that passed the Senate. So they have to pass the Senate again in order to put it in president's office, on president's table. So what we need to do is with all the impeachment, all these New Year thing going on, it's very difficult, we know, but it's very important that more people can be involved and call their representatives, and so let the Senate pass the edited version. It shouldn't be a difficult thing. It just takes time, and really just more people pushing it could shorten the time. And we really do hope before the election, before all the impeachment, all the other world news that is going on, and I just hope this could be passed, and that will require people's help. As many people calling their representatives and asking for them to quickly sign the bill so we can push it and put it on president's office so he can sign, hopefully. That's one thing. And also there's so many other things. Petitions are going on. I was just posting about it on Instagram. There's this White House petition. Only there's so far 90,000 signatures. We need 100,000. There's so far 91,000 I think 91,000 signatures. So still more needed, few thousand more needed, and then not few thousand. Sorry, my math is bad, but still more needed, and also there's this a petition for the German government, and it so far it had already overreached the required petitions, but well, we never reject more signatures, right? We always want for more people's support, and there's so many. I'm sure there's so many other petitions, and these petitions just each one takes less than not even 2 minutes, less than 1 minute, and people could just sign it on their way buying coffee or when they try to kill time watching Netflix. They can sign those, and it might seem nothing. It's just a name to them, but it could possibly help a soul in a camp. This could possibly be the leading key factor to close a camp in the future. This could be one, and we don't know which is the best solution to help. But every solution is in my opinion, every solution, every way is the best way to help. So there's no better one or worse one. That's why I would encourage everyone try to sign those petitions, call their representative. It takes just less than 1 minute, and also they could for the scholars they could sign statements. So far over 7 or now I think we have over 800 signatures from scholars from 42 different countries, and we still need more and more people joining that statement. And also people can call their Red Cross office, and then also people can stop buying products that are made in concentration camps. I'm not saying stop buying things made in China. Well, that's not realistic. We all know that products made in China are cheap and nice and pretty. I understand that. So, and it's hard to avoid, of course, but I assure you, you will be able to live without the products that are not made in concentration camps. You will be able to. There are so many alternative products you can choose from. And there are lists you can find online that shows those companies that are importing or exporting or just benefiting from the concentration camp, and they have their factories in Uyghur region. So please stop buying those products, or call your government officials to suggest them to put sanctions on those companies. It's not only Chinese companies; there are so many Western companies as well. So please stop buying stuff for them, and those could all be the ways that would be very helpful. As the documentary film. So we all know news articles are helpful. People read it on their way buying a coffee. They drink coffee and read the news, and next news. We all know that. And those news capture people's attention for 1 day, for 1 week, for 2 weeks. But for the long term, I realized there's something that we needed to be there forever. We needed that people can go and search for it, and it's always there available for them. And instead of being refreshed every day with all kind of different distractions, different news to distract them, and I realized this needs to be documented, and this needs to be recorded in a movie or in a book. Well, there are people working on it for writing a book. I personally am also working with people to work on a book about my father as well. But this documentary film is not only about my father, but also about the camps, and not only about the camps, but also it covers lots of stories, and those storylines connect to each other. It's fascinating. Those people who suffered from June 4th Tiananmen Square incident, those Chinese Christians, those human rights lawyers, and those Uyghur people who are locked up in camp or prisons, they're all interconnected. It's fascinating. And when I was little, I was always into those short film production thing. I joined them, but I never participated in this entire filmmaking process before. So this time, crazy to see how things happened more than 50 years ago or 40 years ago could be related to what is happening now. It is crazy. And I really do hope, and we're still trying to raise some funds for this movie. We were actually wrapping it up this year. We're planning to release it soon, but then things escalated so quickly with the camps. We realized, there are more camp survivors. We could be interviewing them and put them their information in the film. There's so many more things we can do, so we had to extend it, and that's why I've been doing the fundraising since the old money ran out, and we're still trying to see if we can have more donors willing to help join the cause and to make this film become a better one, and hopefully can be a good way to document what happened back there in China.
Yeah,
Not only in Uyghur region, but also with other people, with other ethnic minorities, with the Han Chinese, with the other religious groups.
yes, and I also want to point out that I noticed that the GoFundMe for this documentary, which I was searching for by searching GoFundMe and Static and Noise, which is the company that two award-winning documentary filmmakers that you're working with, I could not find it when I did a Google search for it. I do suspect that has something to do with the politics behind it, that Google is intentionally hiding it. I could be wrong, but it is findable right now if you go to my Instagram, Rainbow Star Music, click on the link in bio, click Help Uyghurs, and is there a link that you have on your profile as well?
Yes, I do.
Yeah.
I didn't know that people cannot find it on Google, but that's
it
very
might just be me. I hope it's just me. Also, we have about 1 minute left. I told you 30 minutes. I just want to let you know I want to be respectful of your time. So how do you feel about the amount of time that we have left?
I'm okay with extending. I'm free today, so it's up to you if you would like to extend.
Yeah, I would like to extend it. Let's say like 10 minutes. Is that okay?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. Yeah. So what else was I thinking? Sorry, let me look at my notes really quick.
Oh, I just wanted to mention the Static and Noise. It's the name of the film. Static and Noise. It's,
cool. Okay.
Yes, it's the name of the film, and our production team. It's an award-winning team, actually. They have produced films before, but I tried to keep their names not out just before the film released. It's just to be safe, So I've been trying to help. Actually, in the beginning, I was just a small role in part of the film. That was the initial thing, but then I got more and more involved. I personally donated a bunch to this movie, and then I helped with translating, and then I couldn't help with being more involved. And I'm sure if anyone sees how this movie worked, or how this film had been filmed, they will want to be more involved as well. And it's great storyline. Yeah.
When do you expect the film to release, and on what platforms? Like, how will people find it when it's out?
It really depends on the funding, and also because in order to reach out to the thing is, so many survivors or people who are willing to, or who we are willing to include it into the film, they're not in the United States. They're all over the world. And in order to let the entire filming crew to fly to those countries and to stay there and film them, it requires lots of money, and the flight tickets nowadays are not very cheap. That's the most costly part for the film part, and that's why we don't know. It depends on the funding, and depends on if the availability of those people, if they are willing to be in the film. Some people, they want to, and then they take their words back because they feel not safe anymore. Some of them, it's just very difficult. But we do hope to release it by the end of next year, 2020. Hopefully, inshallah.
Inshallah.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Is there anything, do you think, that has caused this to be like allowed to go on for as long as it has? Because I know that my understanding is that the concentration camps have been open for 3 years and has been going on for 3 years. And also, when I think about it, like, and really look into it, the Chinese Communist Party has been like the deepest concept of evil that I can possibly fathom. Like, they surpassed that and have for eons. So this is maybe like off the subject in a way, but I wonder if you have any ideas of like, why has this been allowed to go on so long?
I have no idea why this is allowed. I don't understand. I've tried to think it through so many times. Before I go to bed, after I wake up, I just lay there for 10 minutes, just think about what I did today and what is happening to the world and why this is happening to the world and why I'm doing this. I always just give myself a few minutes, 10 to 20 minutes, just to think of things. Until now, I don't understand why this is allowed to be. This is allowed to be happening to people in 2019 or 2020. Why? How come this is allowed? How come China is getting away? Well, now we are having more and more countries joining the cause and condemning China for what it's doing. But I don't understand. I still don't understand how come the Chinese government officials are not feeling so ashamed for what they're doing, and how they could just blindfold their citizens' eyes, because the majority of the Chinese citizens in China, they have no idea what is going on because of the lack of access to the media, to news, and the only news they have are Chinese propaganda. So it drives me crazy sometimes. I don't understand why this is like this. Yeah, I really do hope we don't repeat the history again. We know in the past it did not end well. What happened? There were similar incidents before, and it did not end well. And I don't think it will end well now. And I really hope this can be fixed, because I see it as a problem and it needs to be fixed.
Is there anything else that you wish people would know about what's happening in China right now?
I just hope people can just imagine one thing. I remember one of the reporters interviewed me and asked me, most of the interviews I done, the reporters asked me, what would you like to say to your father? They asked me like this. But in that interview, she asked me, what would you like to say to the Chinese government officials, whoever is giving the decision, or maybe the president? So that was the first time I've been asked that, and I said, that thing I would like to say it to everyone, whoever is hearing this. Please take 10 minutes of your time. Just imagine. Close your eyes, put a picture, or put in like a short film thing in your brain. Just imagine a scene that your close family members, your father, your mother, your daughter, your son, they're taken away in front of your eyes, get bitten, raped, or we don't know, all kinds of tortures in front of you. Just imagine that. For 10 minutes, can you handle it? What do you feel about it? Do you accept it? This is just my question. Please spend 10 minutes and say if you're okay with it. Are you okay with it? And this is the thing I want to ask the Chinese government officials and everyone on this planet, whoever is listening to this, to just take this 10 minutes of their life and try to do that. And if they think they cannot accept it, then please do something.
Well, thank you so much, Jewher. I wish you the best of luck in the rest of your semester, and
thank you.
I'll definitely be in touch with all the information. There's a website that goes up for each episode, and this will probably be out on the 8th, but I'll get with you for sure about the exact date.
Sure.
And all the information. So I'll be emailing you and stuff. And I'm sending you a big hug. And thank you so much.
Thank you so much for willing to do this. Thank you.
Absolutely. Hope you have a great weekend, dear.
Thank you. You too. Happy holiday.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
That was our interview with Jewher Ilham regarding the Chinese Communist Party and their abhorrent treatment of Muslims and the modern-day Holocaust that they have created and what we can do to stop it. There are going to be myriad links that you're going to want to check out for sure in the show notes regarding actions that you can take to end this. It is not a hopeless story. There is hope yet. We do have power, particularly when we are united. You can go to rainbowstarmusic.com/podcast and scroll down and you'll find this episode. You can also just Google who's my representative, find their phone number. You can call them 24/7 and leave a voicemail. It takes 2 minutes, and ask them to do anything they can to close the Chinese concentration camps. Again, there is a link in my Instagram.com/rainbowstarmusic. Just click in the bio, click on Help Uyghurs, and it's the first little button that comes up there. Hopefully that documentary will mobilize voters and politicians to act to end this horrific, unspeakable violence. We all hoped that the Holocaust would not happen again, but it is happening right now, and we do have the power to stop it if we just band together and speak up and don't ever stop speaking up. My brothers and sisters, we have to step out of line. This episode was written, edited, and produced by me, Rainbow Star, and the background music is also written by me. New episodes release every Wednesday, so keep coming back. You're welcome to subscribe, rate, review, and share, and let others know that feminist voices are well worth hearing. Stay fierce, stay sparkly.